Hello, everyone, and welcome to another exciting workshop hosted by us here at Circuit Stream. Thank you, everyone, for joining us today for this Build a VR Training Simulation app workshop. Before we get started, just like any workshop, I want to do a audio and a video check, make sure that everything is coming through correctly. If you could just let me know in the chat if everything is coming through correctly. Perfect. Thank you, Christopher. Perfect. Awesome. So we have a lot of people joining us today. So I'll wait a few minutes for everyone to join. While we do that, just a couple of housekeeping items. As you guys probably figured out by now, there is a chat option available for you guys today. Please use this option to do some networking, get to know the folks who are joining. We're all like minded individuals. So please feel free to have conversations, share your LinkedIn page, and do some networking. You will also notice that we do have a questions tab as well. If you have any questions throughout the session, you can post them in that tab, and we'll have Indica come back for a Q&A session at the end of the workshop so we can answer those questions for you. We also have a polls tab as well. I will be posting a couple of polls in there throughout the workshop, so please go in and participate in these polls, as it will help us greatly to put on more workshops for you guys and just get a better understanding of the crowd that we have here today. A reminder to everyone that this session is recorded, and everyone who registered will receive a recording of this session after it is completed. And without further ado, just do a little bit of introduction about myself. My name is Ro. I'm a enrollment advisor here at Circuit Stream. I have 7+ years of experience working in business development and customer service. And today we have one of our best instructors for you guys. Indica has 5+ years of experience in VR development, and he loves anything and everything tech related. So he will be hosting the technical portion of this workshop. So stay tuned for that. Um, just to give you guys an agenda of what we're going to be covering today, we will have an introduction section that will take around 10 to 15 minutes, and then we'll move on to the technical session, which will be around 45 minutes to an hour. Then we'll have a little bit of a wrap up, and at the end of the workshop, we'll do some Q&A with Indica. Now, just a little bit about our company, who we are. We're an education company founded back in 2015. Our founders noticed the gap in personalized training and education space in the immersive technology, or XR. And to date, we've supported over 40,000 individual learners in XR and in Unity. And, these learners have taken part in our various workshops like the one today and courses over the years. And this is a milestone that we're really proud of. As you can see, here at Circuit Stream, we have a global team of industry experts who are passionate about accelerating the AR and VR industry through education. And we have team members and instructors all around the world that helps us, accommodate students across multiple time zones around the world. Circuit Stream is also a Unity training and channel partner, and partners of Unity, if you don't know, are approved based on their expertise, their focus on quality education, and on the demonstrated success of their students. And for those of you who are unfamiliar with Unity, they've created one of the most extensive and robust development engines on the market, which will shed a little bit of light on here shortly. And I would like to also mention that our instructors maintain the highest level of certification offered by Unity. We also have an academic portfolio of free online workshops and webinars like the one you are attending today, and also a variety of courses that we offer, which are all designed to help students learn how to build VR and AR content in Unity. Now, these courses are mainly focused for beginners, but we can help more intermediate and advanced students or teams through our one-on-one sessions or team training offers as well. If you're looking for XR specific training, we have our XR development with Unity course for developers. as well as our interaction design and prototyping for XR course for all of the design oriented folks in the room. We also recently launched our Unity Developer Bootcamp, and this is an extensive and intensive 24-week live online bootcamp to prepare you for a successful career in 3D development. And this is by far the most extensive and complete program we have ever offered. And if you are looking for more information on this great program, please don't hesitate to reach out to one of us on the enrollment team, and we'd be more than happy to assist and give you some details on that. So one of the questions that we always get is, who have we actually worked with? Well, we've trained teams and professionals for some of the largest organizations in the world, such as Apple, Meta, Hershey's, and even the US Navy, just to name a few for you guys. And we work with organizations large and small, right down to the individual learner. I'm also proud to announce that as of this year, CircuitStream has been partnering with some of the world's most prestigious universities to offer our educational programs, our interaction design and prototyping for XR program, as well as our XR development with Unity program is now offered to continuing education departments by all of the institutions that you see on screen. We are also launching new partnerships with more schools throughout North America, so stay tuned for that. Now, getting a little bit into Unity. What is Unity? If you've seen this interface before, then you're most likely already familiar with Unity. And if you've seen the Muffin clicker game on screen, then you've probably been through our C# scripting fundamentals course. But for those of you who aren't familiar with Unity, Unity is a free development engine. It is a program that can be used to create both 2D and real-time 3D content, which would include augmented reality as well as virtual reality. And in our opinion, Unity is definitely the program most beginner friendly if you're looking to begin making your own XR applications. Now, we know that Unity is used to create over 60% of the world's AR and VR content, and is also responsible for an enormous share of the broader content and application markets. Now, like anything, these applications all start with an idea. From there, you need to build your assets and bring them into Unity and create immersive interactions using scripts in the C# programming language. And once you've done that and you're happy with your build, you need to leverage an SDK or a software development kit to ensure that your target device is compatible with your build. And once you've done all of that, you can render and publish your application. Now, enough about all those other learning opportunities. Let's talk about what you're going to be learning today in this amazing workshops. You're going to be learning how to build a Unity environment, how to develop logic using C# coding language, and then how to set up VR in Unity. Now, that will conclude my portion of the presentation at this time. I'd like to remind everyone in the audience that we will be recording the workshop, and that everyone who signed up to join us today will be receiving both the recording as well as the project assets. And another thing I would like to mention is that if the video is not coming through very clearly while we're sharing our screen, don't worry. In the recording, the video will be clear. It's just because of sometimes the bandwidth issues when we're sharing our screens here. So don't worry about that. Now, without further ado, I'd like to take this time to invite Indica up on stage. It is an honor and privilege to have Indica join us today. Take it away, Indica.
Thank you very much, Rom. Can you all hear me? Can you see me? Can you hear me properly? Good. Awesome. Thank you very much. So I am Indigo Jesuri. I'm one of the instructors of CircuitStream. So let's see how we build a VR training simulation. So I'm going to share my screen. Alrighty. Cool. Can you see my screen? All good. Awesome. Amazing. Okay, so today we're going to be using Unity for our project, right? So with this, we're going to be building a VR training simulation. Um, So I believe you have installed Unity, and if you are ready to follow along with me, you might have received a link through email to download some assets. So let me post that link here as well. So there you go. So it's a GitHub link. If you go to that link, you see something like this, right? So it's called the VR Starter Package. And if you're following along, just click this one right here, which is called VR Starter Pack.Unity Package. Just click it, and it will be downloaded to your computer. You can just save it. And right now, I have saved it in my desktop. So this is called a Unity package. So if you're using Unity, you might know a little bit about the versions of Unity, and also how Unity manages its projects and its versions using a software, a tiny software called Unity Hub. So usually when you want to install Unity, you install it through Unity Hub. And first of all, you install Unity Hub, and then you create an account, and then you log into that account using your credentials. So once you do that, you'll be able to install different versions of Unity. So today, we're going to be using the Unity 2021.3.0. This is the very, very first long support version of Unity's latest 2021 version. So don't worry if you have 2020.3 any version which is like less than 2 years old. Everything would be working fine. But today I am going to be using Unity 2021. So I would not recommend going over 2019 to 2018. If it is 2020 or 2021, that's going to be okay. Right. So at the same time, you can see I've installed the Android module, the WebGL, the Windows. You don't really need the WebGL module. In order for you to test the VR application in your Windows VR-capable PC, you need to add the Windows modules as well. You can install new Unity versions by clicking this Install Editor. So I believe you have the Unity editor installed. So let's go ahead and create a new project for us to get started. Okay, so I'm going to go to the project section of Unity Hub. And in here, I'm going to go to New Project, right over here. I'm going to click it. And from here, I'm going to choose the editor version from 2020.3 to 2021.3.0, right? And over here, you can see a bunch of templates, right? You can see 2D, 3D, URP, 2D, URP, 3D, and then there is something called 3D sample scene URP. There's a bunch of templates that you can download, right? So even if you can see something called VR here, we're not going to use that. We're going to do something from scratch, but we're going to be using this 3D sample scene in Universal Render Pipeline. The URP stands for Universal Render Pipeline. There's not much difference in between 3D and URP. The only difference is about rendering. So that is why it's called Render Pipeline. Anyways, so I'm going to select 3D sample scene. So if you do this for the very first time, you will not be able to select this, directly. First of all, you have to, it will be something like this. First of all, you have to download this template, right? It's a very small installation. It might take like less than a minute. So select download template, and you'll be given with something like this. 3D sample scene URP. And you can see here with the sample scene, there is this workbench with a bunch of tools. So for today's VR simulation application, we're hoping to use these tools. All right, so over here, you can see project settings, and you can give a name for your project right here, and also the location. So don't just keep the name of the project as my project. Always change the project, because this is also going to be the name of your project all the way through. So if you keep it my project, the name of your project, the identifier, everything is going to be just named as my project. So I'm going to save this as VR training sim. VR training simulation. And then, of course, you can choose a location that you like. I'd like to keep the project in my circuit stream classes folder. Okay, so I'm going to create the project. So go ahead and click this. Clicking this will install, will create your project, and it might take a minute or two to launch it. To make things easier, I have created a new project for me, and I've already loaded it up. Okay, so when you open your project for the very first time, this is what you would see, right? So if you're very new to Unity, I'm going to give like a couple of minute introduction to the interface of Unity, and then I'm going to dive into the development of this. And today I'm hoping to use the VR packages provided by Unity, and I'm hoping to use like the minimum amount of coding in order to get this done. Okay, cool. So by default, in Unity, in the middle, you can see this scene view, right? If you want to move, if you want to navigate in the scene view, you can right-click, and you can see how the icon, how the mouse pointer changes into something like an eye, and with with cubes underneath it. While holding your right click, you can move your mouse up and down and left and right to look left and right. So it's like a head. You can look up and down. You can spin your head left and right to look around, right? So use your mouse and look around. And at the same time, while holding your right click, press the W key slowly, right? Not too much. Like tap the W key slowly to move forward, and tap the S key to move backwards. And likewise, tap A key to move left and B key to move right. So this is very important because navigation in Unity is very important if you want to build your own scene, because you have to navigate throughout this scene in order to manipulate 3D models, put things together, to work around. Okay, so you can use WASD, plus you can use E and Q to fly up and down like this, right? Use E and Q to fly up and down. And at the same time, you can combine all of these buttons to move around in this space. There you go. Cool. Now, when you look at your left-hand side, you can see the hierarchy, right? So by default, you can see the hierarchy is named as sample scene. Left to this icon, you can see a small triangular shaped icon right here. It's very tiny, very hard to see. If you click it, you can see how it expands all of these, the rest of the objects in the scene. So in Unity, these objects are known as game objects, right? Everything that is in the hierarchy are known as game objects. By default, you can see there is something called the main camera. If you select this, you can see in your right-hand side, there is something called the inspector window. And in the inspector window, you can see a bunch of components, right? So these are settings of this game object, which is named as main camera. So in Unity, you can define any game object. You can define the control, the components, or the behavior of these game objects using something called components. You can see here at the very bottom, there is a button called Add Component. When you click it, you can see there is a bunch of components that you can add, right? So we'll be going through this. We'll be adding a lot of components in our project, right? So, but by default, you can see right here, when you select the main camera, you can see the transform component, the camera component, the audio listener, and then there's another one called simple camera controller, which is also identified as a script, right? So if you select the directional light, you can see how it changes to the directional light settings, right? So these things are known as components. Every game object is built using a combination of components. These components, manipulating the values of these components, that is how we create interactivity in this game engine, right? So it's simple as that. We have game objects, we have components, which are which combines all together to create the behavior of the game object. And what we do basically is we manipulate the values of these components in order to create interactivity. Right. Okay. So what we're going to be doing is that, first of all, we're going to import some assets into our project, some of the things that we have already created. But before that, we need to convert this project into a VR project, because Unity is not always about VR. You can use Unity to create mobile games, platform, PC games, console games. There's like a lot of platforms that you can create applications by using Unity, right? So first of all, we need to let Unity know that this is going to be a VR project. So we have a bunch of setup, we have a bunch of stuff to do in order to set it up. So in Unity, by default, it's given, Unity has given you the basic layer, the basic tools that you need in order to work it out. But in order to do something else, something additional, you have to install additional packages, right? So what we're going to do is we're going to install a bunch of packages so that this allows us to convert the project into a VR project, right? So I'm going to do that. I'm going to go to Window menu. Right here, you can see the Window menu. And from here, I'm going to choose the Package Manager. Right? So when you open up the Package Manager, this is what you would see. So over here, you can see that there's something called Packages Unity Registry. If you select this, you can see some other options. You can go to In Project to see the packages that are currently in your project. And likewise, if you go to My Assets, so this will give you a list of assets that you download from the Asset Store, which is not important for today. I'm going to choose Unity Registry. So when you do that, you can see there is an option called VR right here, right? VR, 2 packages. When you select it in your right-hand side, you can see 2 options. The first one is called the Oculus Xr plugin, and the second one is called the Open Xr plugin. So what is the difference between these two? So usually when it comes to XR applications, XR channels, right? VR channels, VR hardware, there are 2 main VR hardware that are available, widely, right? So we've seen Oculus Quest, we've seen Oculus Rift, we have seen HTC Vive, HTC Vive Flow, and then there's another one called Pico. So there's like a bunch of hardware manufacturers that create their own XR firmware or XR operating system. So in order to work with all of these XR operating systems, there is something called the Open XR plugin, right? So the name defines it. Open means it's open for all of these hardware manufacturers, including Oculus, right? So if you have any questions, feel free to drop the question in the chat, or you can go to the question section. Where is Package Manager? I missed it. Yes, you go to Window menu, and from here you can choose Package Manager. Simple as that. And also make sure that you select the Packages Unity Registry from here, right? So if you don't see VR in your Package Manager, that's fine, right? You just need to find something called the Oculus XR plugin, right? Because I am going to choose the Oculus Rift. If you have something else, you can just use Open XR plugins to and install this, right? Okay. Can you do this with a CLI instead? By default, Unity has not given us an option to use CLI. They have given us a bunch of options, but CLI is not given out of the box. So I'm going to use Oculus XR plugin, and I'm going to install this. Right, so you can see that it is installing. It might take a little bit of time to install. And at the same time, we're going to use something called the Xr Interaction Toolkit, right? Okay, so the Xr Interaction Toolkit is a set of components that are provided by Unity in order to build VR applications quickly, right? So we can do this the traditional approach by using, by creating every interaction from scratch. But all of these, most of these common interactions are given to us by Unity using this Xr Interaction Toolkit. So now that I've imported the Unity's Oculus XR plugin, you can see that it gives me a warning. The warning is, if you're using the older version, 2020 version, then you will not see the something called VR, but instead you'll see something like Oculus XR plugin inside Unity registry. It is not necessary to go to the preview packages to do that, because Oculus XR plugin is, it's given out of the box and it's not in preview packages. Okay, so make sure that if you get a warning like this, right, click yes, and it will restart the project. Right, so now you can see that this installed the new Unity input system and tries to restart the project. Okay, so why this restarts the project? All right, there you go. So now I close down, and we need to wait until this opens up again. So the reason for Unity to restart is that by default, Unity uses an input system which is called the legacy input system. For virtual reality, it uses the new input system. Input system basically defines how you how you capture inputs in Unity, like basically how to capture the VR controller input, how to capture the keyboard input, the mouse input, touch input, all of these combined. The new input system is completely different with the legacy, the original input system. It uses an action-based method in order to capture the input. So it's a little bit complex compared with the basic or the default method, because the default method is very straightforward. But we are not going to dive into a lot of new input system components. Anyway, so now you can see that it reopened Unity, and it is still fetching the packages from the Unity registry. Okay, so now that we have installed the XR, does that input work with the K830 keyboard? What does it mean, K830 keyboard? Oh, yeah, basically it will work with any keyboard as long as it supports the touch input or the trackpad or the keyboard. That's fine. Okay, so now that I've installed the Oculus XR plugin, what I'm going to do is I'm going to install something called the Xr Interaction Toolkit, as I told you before. So if you're using the Unity 2020 version, and if you scroll all the way to the bottom, you can see right here, right on top of Xr plugin management, there'll be something called Xr Interaction Toolkit, right? So what you need to do is you just need to click it and select install, right? So right now, if you're using Unity 2021, there is a problem. Xr Interaction Toolkit is not here anymore, right? So if you want to install Xr Interaction Toolkit, you need to go and click this plus button right here, right? And select add package by name, right? Click this plus button right here and go and select add package by name. And now it asks you something like this. And this is what we're going to we're going to give com dot, not .com, this is com dot xr dot interaction dot toolkit. I don't know why they have done this, why they have went through the hard way to do this, but if you type com.xr.interaction.toolkit, click the add button, now you can see, com.xr.interaction toolkit. Okay, that's strange. Let me check. Okay, just give me a minute. Add package by name com.xr interaction toolkit. Oh, that's strange. Just give me a minute. say that you need to type. Did this work with anybody else? Anybody who is using 2021 version? So this is how it should be. com.xr.interaction toolkit. Oh, my bad. Sorry. com.unity.xr.interaction toolkit. com.unity.xr.interaction.toolkit. And there you go. So now you can see that it's installed in the package. So let me paste this here. It's called com.unity.xr.interaction toolkit. So earlier days it was there. You know, when you go to Unity registry, it used to be there, but they've like moved it to someplace else. Most probably, you know, in a future release, they'll just add that back to the registry. Anyway, so when you do that, it asks you to update this. So select I made a backup. Go ahead. All right, so that's it. So now if you go to in project, over here you can see the Xr Interaction Toolkit. So right now the latest version of this is 2.0.1. All right. Okay, so with it, if you select the Xr Interaction Toolkit here, over here you can see something called samples. Click it. And we're going to install the starter assets. Right? Select the Xr Interaction Toolkit that you downloaded. Click the starter assets from here and click import. Now you can see that it's imported. If you want, you can re-import it again. So, you know, this CLI package installation, pretty much similar to Node.js, Brew, Homebrew, something similar to that. But unfortunately, so they have given a package manager. So if you go to, like, if you are technical, you can go to your assets folder. And over here, you can see there is something called packages. And inside packages, you have something called manifest.json. You can open it up and you can input the packages that you want to install, right? So com.unity.xr interaction toolkit is something like that. But Unity have made it, Unity has created a user interface for us within Unity to easily look for the packages and install. Cool. Anyway, so right now we install the Xr Interaction Toolkit and the starter assets, and now we're good to go, right? Okay, so the package manager work is done. Now there are like a couple of things that we need to do. I'm going to go to Edit menu, and I'm going to go to Project Settings, Edit, Project Settings. And here, double check. If you go to Xr Plugin Management, you can see that Oculus and OpenXR both are available underneath Xr Plugin Management, right? Over here, you can see there is something called Oculus and OpenXR. And also over here, you can see the platform that are going to be creating this application. So if you are using a tethered VR device, right? Oculus Rift, HTC Vive, or the HP headset device, right? If you're using a tethered VR device, that means you're using your PC to run your VR application, then of course you need to enable Oculus right here. So when you do that for the very first time, it will install some assets, some scripts in order to activate that. And if you're planning to build this on your Oculus Quest or your Pico VR headset, you need to go to Android section, right, to the Android module and enable Oculus there as well, right? So because I'm using my Oculus Quest, I'll be activating Oculus instead of OpenXR. If you want to, test this, and if you want to deploy this on, multiple VR devices, then make sure that you select OpenXR, right? There's no change. It's pretty much the same thing. You choose that, and that's it. So now your Unity knows that this is going to be a VR application. And when you run it, the VR applications will work as it's supposed to be. Cool. All right. So now I am going to close this, and now we are in the main scene. Okay, so now it's time for us to install the starter assets that I've given to you, right? So I'm going to paste the link again. This is the link right here. Go to this link and download the .unity package. It's a very small file. It's about 300 kilobytes or something. Just download it, and now we're going to import that to our project. So we are starter pack right here. I'm going to double click on this Unity package. And when you double click, you can see something like this: import Unity package. You can see that I'm importing things like materials. You have hand models, and then there is something called Xr. There are 2 C# scripts, which is called hand visual and action-based controller, and some textures here as well. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to select this import button right at the bottom of this. Now I can see that it's importing all of the assets. Okay, so just to talk about the Xr Interaction Toolkit, just to give you an idea about what it is and how it works, let me open up my whiteboard. Okay, so when it comes to Xr, it's all about interactivity, right? It's all about interactions with your controllers with other objects in scene. So that's what we've been doing, right? And also you can see some user interfaces in front of you, and various interactions that you can do with them, right? So the idea of this is to simulate some sort of a scenario in order to train, right? So we're going to do the basic, the simplest approach, to build a very, very simple simulation. So the simulation is about, it's a training, right? So you'll have a bunch of, options here, options in the sense the instructions to perform a task, right? Task 1, task 2, task 3, and task 4. So when you do task 1, it will give you a tick, and you're done. Task 2, tick, done. Task 3, tick, done, and task 4, tick, done. So this is what we're going to be building, right? So in order to do this, the Xr Interaction Toolkit has 2 main components. The first one is called Interactor, right? Interactor, who and what will be interacting. And then the other one is Interactable. Interactable. What are the interactable components? What are the objects that are interactable? So when it comes to virtual reality, the only interacting thing that you can see is the grabbing, right? Sorry. You can grab any object using your controllers, and maybe you can throw them. So in order to make that very, very easily, Unity has given us something called Grab Interactable. Grab Interactable. Plus, apart from Grab Interactable, we have something called the Simple Interactable. I'll show you what this does. Basically, Simple Interactable is about similar to Grab Interactable, but you cannot grab things, right? Interactable, that means you can use the interactor to interact. Let's say that you want to turn on a switch, right? You want to turn it off. So likewise, you have interactors. Sorry, you have interactables that you can interact with. So this is called Simple Interactor. So in the Xr Interaction Toolkit, you have basically 2 interactors as well. Basically, it's free, but yeah. By default, we have 2. The first one is known as let's just say direct interactor. What do I mean by direct interactor? Basically, it's your hands, it's your controllers. So if you attach, if you give a component, if you attach a direct interactor component to your hands, it's going to be your direct interactor. So you can use your direct interactors to work with interactables. You can grab things, you can interact with them, likewise. Apart from that, we have something called the Ray Interactor, right? So this is VR, right? You can do anything that you like in virtual reality. You can fly, you can do various matrix things. You can perform some Star Wars actions, right? Like grabbing things from a distance, or like grabbing things from a distance and move them close, move them around. So these things can be done by something called the ray interactor. So from your hand, you'll be sending some sort of a laser, and using that laser, you'll be able to pick something like far, far away from you. This is VR. Anything is possible. Apart from that, we have something called the socket interactor. This is very cool. Interactor. Don't worry about my spelling. Socket interactor is also an interactor which performs actions on interactables, right? So this is a very boring theoretical session. Let's quickly jump into our VR, our Unity project, and see how we can use these interactors and interactables. Okay, right. So now that we have installed our package, let me go back here. If you go to the prefab section, double click and open up the prefab section. Inside of this, you can see something called Xr. What is a socket interactor again? Okay. A socket interactor, which is similar to the direct interactor and array interactor, but a socket interactor, this works like a socket, right? What is a socket? Imagine that you have a plug that you can interact. So this is a plug, and here we have a socket. This is the socket, right? So you grab your plug and you put it in, and now the plug is, fit. So the socket interactor is something like this. So this is the interactable, and this is the interactor. So you can, this interactor works like a socket. Whatever the interactable that goes through it, it will just capture and plug it in. That's it. Right? Plus, we can use some interactable events to perform custom interactions. I'll show you how we do that within this project, right? Okay, so first of all, I'm going to go back to, can you write down to samples? What do you mean? Samples? It's round like a square hole, square peg kind of thing. Something similar, but let's work on this, and let's implement them, and I'll show you how it works. Okay, so if you have installed these assets, go to prefabs, and here you can see something called Xr. What is interactor and interactable in your example? So in here, this is your interactor, OR. This is your interactable, right? Imagine you are picking this with your hand, right? Now your hand is the interactor here. I'm just going to call it OR, right? Interactor, you grabbed it, interactable, you put it into the plug, and your plug or the socket is a socket interactor, which has the ability to grab, right? Okay, so we're going to do the same thing, right? We're going to wear the hat, and our head is going to be a socket. Our hat is going to be an interactable. So we're going to wear the hat, right? So let's see how we can do that. Anyway, go back to the scene and go to this prefabs folder that we have. You can see this Xr blue color icon thing. Just drag and drop it into the into this area, right? So I'm going to put it right over here. Boop. Okay, so now you can see that Xr, something called Xr is right over here. And then we have the main camera. Okay, so as I told you, the main camera is something like the eye, right? If you select the main camera and go to the, not the game, if you select the main camera, right over here, you can see something like this. So basically, this viewport is what this virtual camera sees, right? But when it comes to virtual reality, our eyes are our camera, right? It's our eyes that is our camera, right? So basically, we have two cameras here, which we don't need. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to right-click my main camera, and I'm going to delete it. So now we don't have a camera, right? Not a virtual camera, but inside this Xr, you can see a gizmo right here, which looks like a movie camera, right? So let's see the anatomy of this Xr thing, right? So when you open it up, you can see that we have something called Xr origin, right? XR origin, when you select it, you can see that it has something like this, which is set to XR origin, and we have some bunch. We have a bunch of properties. Can we say an interactable is constant and interactor is movable? In both can be movable because your hand is moving, right? Interactable, it's not a constant. You can just pick something up and throw it around. That's an interactable, right? Let me show you. So if you expand the XR origin, you can see that we have something called camera offset here. If you expand this, then here you can see the main camera. So this is your eyes. If you select the main camera, you can see here there is something called tracked pose driver. Basically what this does is it will capture the input from your headset and it will move your headset in the virtual world with respect to the movement of your physical world, right? Plus, apart from that, we have something called left and right. So these are the controllers. So inside left, you can see there is something called interaction, and right also you can see something called interaction. So we're not going to deep dive into this, but if you select interaction here, you can see when you scroll down a little bit more, there is something called XR Direct Interactor, TOR, Interactor. That means your interaction hand is an interactor, right? There is a component which is called interactor. And also if you select the right hand controller, there you go, right hand controller interaction, you can see a direct interactor. Okay, so let's see how this works. Now, if I select my XR component, you can see that my XR component is looking at this direction, usually this blue color line. This blue color arrow, this is known as the forward direction. Basically, what I want to do is I want to look at the this. So I'm going to move using my move tool. So this is the move tool right here. I'm going to use my move tool and move my thing right over here. So you might wonder why this is on the floor. Why is this thing on the floor? This is fine because when you set up your Oculus controllers or Oculus headset, or whatever the VR headset, you define the floor, you define the boundaries, right? So when you put it on the floor and when you run it, Unity or the application will automatically detect your floor, and with respect to that, it will take your position up and down, right? Your head's position up and down. So right now, this prefab or this base component, can you increase the, okay, just give me a minute. I guess I can do that. All right. Is this better? How did you get the sample scene object to show from the assets folder? Yeah. So first of all, just double click on the Unity package that I gave you, and once you do that, there is going to be an option for you to import it. Once imported, you can go to this prefab section, and here you can see the XR, right? You just need to drag and drop it into this sample scene. And you can see here that we have two hands here as well, right? Or you can just delete it. Now I have two. You can just drag and drop it here. Just drag and drop it here. So now you have 1, 2, 3, 4 XRs, which you don't need. I'm going to delete this 1, 2, 3. I'm just going to keep 1. Right? So this is called a prefab. Right? It's a prefabricated item. So this was given to you by me because I don't want this to go through all the small things. So here, apart from that, you have something called the Xr Interaction Manager. When you select it, you can see a bunch of components added here. Don't worry. Basically, these are just to snap, rotate, basically to enable locomotion. That means moving around. So today's plan is not about moving around. Today's, the idea is about picking things and creating some sort of a flow to create a training simulation, right? Okay. All right. So now that we have the Xr Interaction Manager, Xr, and everything set up, do you think using virtual desktop while creating a project will give instant feedback to the progress of the design? If you are using a virtual desktop, there is no way that your hardware can work with the operating system directly, right? Because you're going that through a virtualization, so it might not work. So it will not give instant feedback, as I've seen. But if you're using a VR capable PC and if you're not using any virtual desktops or anything, you just connect your VR headset and you can test it out. I mean, a VR virtual desktop. Oh, of course, because you are already connected to virtual reality and you just need to play. And that is what I'm going to do right now. So I have an Oculus Quest right here, which is connected to my PC, right? I'm using something called Oculus Link. So using Oculus Link, you can directly convert your Oculus Quest to an Oculus Rift. So your Quest now works as a tethered VR headset. Is it possible to view the virtual environment through Quest but interact with the game objects through another input, keyboard instead of Quest controllers? Of course, you can do that, but the input system that are provided for us does not directly work with the keyboards, unfortunately. So you have to you can use the keyboard, but that's basically for keyboard inputs. I'll show you how this works, and then I'll show you where you need to change the buttons in order to work with this. But it's going to be a little bit troublesome because you are trying to give virtual inputs using a keyboard, but by default these are the controllers. You can move them around, right? The pose of these controls is also an input to the system. You move this up and down. You rotate this, the location, the position, the pose, basically the rotation and the position is an input, which we cannot do it with the keyboard. So it's going to be even if you set it up, you have to struggle a little bit in order to work it out. So I would recommend using VR controllers, but if not, you can just test it. You can just test the flow using just by dragging and dropping things in the play mode. I'll show you how this works. So at the top, you can see this play button right here. What I'm going to do is I'm going to put my VR headset, and I'm going to open up Oculus Home so that I can convert my VR headset into the tethered version. So now I'm in VR. You can see that my mouse moving. I can move my mouse using my controllers. I'm going to click the play button right here, and let's see how this works. And now you can see that it opens up. It says loading. Failed to set developer mode on start. Okay. All right, let me restart this project. Usually this happens when you, when you do it for the very first time in Unity 2021. Unity XR management, let me go to project settings. Okay, Oculus is set up in both. Xr Interaction Toolkit is set up. Let me quickly restart this Unity project. Okay, I'm going to go to... Did you try turning it off and on again? That's what I'm going to do. Yeah, okay, so we have a question. We have a couple of questions. What is your hardware setup? So I am using the, so let me open up. So if you go to the start menu and search for DX DIAG. This will give you a DirectX dialog. So this is my setup. My system is an AMD Ryzen. It's not an Intel. It's a PC. It's not a laptop. And a 32 RAM. And as for the display, I have a GeForce RTX 3060. So usually, in order to work with VR, you need to have a VR supported graphics card. Even if you don't have it, that's fine. You don't need to have a VR supported graphics card, right? You can build it, but you can develop it, but you cannot test it in real time without a VR supported PC. Okay, so let me try to go to the sample scene. Okay, so samples, where's my sample scene? Oh no, this is the old project. Workshop VR training. How did you open the project in 3D mode? So if you want to open the project in 3D mode, first of all, you need to make sure that when you create a new project, make sure that you don't choose 2D, but choose 3D, right? So in this case, I've used 3D sample scene and make sure that it is 3D. In any case that you're in 2D, make sure that you have not selected this 2D button right here, right? So there's this button which is called 2D. Yeah, you select 2D and now you're in the 2D mode. You click 2D again and now you are in the 3D mode. All right, so I'm going to run this again and see how this works. All right, there you go. Now I'm in VR. You can see that my hands, when I press my grip key, you can see how it grips. And when I release my thumbstick or this trigger button, you can see how it points up and down. Cool. And also, if I look down, I can see that I'm on. I'm not on the floor. I'm a little bit away from it. And also, I can use my thumbstick left and right to rotate myself around. This is cool. So what I'm going to do right now is I'm going to use the interactors and interactables and try to create this flow right here. Okay. So now that the VR is working, the hard part is done. It's all about the the implementation of the rest. Okay, so in order to create the flow, I'm going to create a small user interface, right? So to do that, I'm going to right click here and I'm going to go to Xr, and choose a UI canvas. Right click the hierarchy, go to Xr and choose a UI canvas. And when you do that, you can see that it has created something called the canvas here and also the event system. So first of all, I'm going to select the canvas. I'm going to right click it. And I'm going to go to UI and select image. There should be something called panel. Right click the canvas, go to UI and select panel. So this is because I want to show some sort of instructions in front of you. Just panel, and now you can see that it has created some sort of a huge panel, like a boxy thing around you. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to select my canvas, right? And from here, I can choose the scale tool to scale this down. Use the scale tool and click from the center and drag it down so that I can scale it down. There you go. Now I'm going to use my move tool right here to slowly move it just right in front of my workshop. You can use WER to switch in between rotate, rotate, move, and scale. W to move, E to rotate, and R to scale. Right, so I'm going to use WER to quickly take my UI right in front of me. All right, there you go. Okay, so I'm going to rotate this a little bit. All right, so now what I'm going to do is inside my panel, I'm going to create a text. I'm going to create a text field so that I can give my instructions, right? So right click the panel. Latency is a bit jarring, so let me check my connection. It's quite okay. I'll try to slow this down so you'll not see this a bit jarring. Okay, so inside the panel, I'm going to go to UI and choose text mesh pro. So it's a text field that I'm going to create. And when you do this for the very first time, you'll be asked to import text mesh essentials. So I'm going to click it. And once you do that, you can see a text box right over here. I'm going to click this close button to close it. Okay, so this is my text box. So in my inspector window, I can change the color of this. Let me change the color of this to white. And also I'm going to change the color of the panel to not be transparent. So it's going to be fully, I'm going to make it black. So that way I can see the text properly. Okay, so as for the text, I'm going to change the font size of this to, around 10. I'm going to move this using my rect transform tool. Okay, so 4 steps. The first one is wear the helmet. And the second one is wear the eyewear. I don't know whether my spelling is correct. And the third one is pick up the chainsaw. And the fourth one is this a stud? Cut the stud. Cut the stud. Okay, so now we have 4. We have 4 sections of this flow. Okay, so the first step is to wear the helmet, and then we need to wear the eyewear, pick up the chainsaw, and cut the stud. So it's easy. So over here you can see that we have the helmet, and then we have the eyewear. So basically, what I'm going to do is I'm going to make it. I'm going to wear the helmet by using the socket interactor. So now you know that our hands has 2 interactors, right? The direct interactors. Now this one, which is the helmet, is going to be an interactable. So I'm going to select my helmet. I had to click a couple of times to select the helmet itself. Oops, there you go. If you see things like this, don't worry about this. These are just gizmos for lighting. So I'm going to click this button so that way these gizmos will not be visible. And over here, you can see that the safety hat is right underneath props and right underneath workbench. So I'm going to select my safety hat. And in my inspector window, I'm going to give an add component. And this is going to be, over here, I'm going to search for Interactable. So right now, you can see we have 2 interactables. The first one is called the simple interactable, and the other one is called the grab interactable. So I'm going to choose the grab interactable here because this is going to be grabbed. Pretty easy. And when you do that, you can see, when I do that, you can see that it has created a rigid body as well as something called the interactable. The rigid body is a component that makes this object physically active, right? If you add a rigid body component to any of these objects, it's going to, all the physical calculations is going to be applied, and it's going to, it's going to fall down. So if I click play now, you can see how the helmet is not there anymore because it has fallen down because of the gravity. So what I'm going to do is, I don't want this to fall down. So in order to stop this from falling down, I'm going to select the table itself. And right here, you can see that there is something called the bench top over here. I'm going to add something called the collider. The colliders are very important when it comes to virtual reality applications, right? So I'm going to select my bench top, and I'm going to click Add Component here and search for the box collider. A collider is like a bounding box. If I move it closer, and if I select this Edit Collider right here, you can see a green color box right here. So basically, this green color box, the box collider, defines the boundaries of this table. So likewise, this cannot be, this safety hat. It cannot be a. Would you have used simple interactable when using raycast? Not really, because if you want to grab this, simple interactable is something else. If you want to grab this, then of course you have to use the grab interactable. Okay, so for my safety hat, I'm going to use a collider, which is known as mesh collider. Right, so I selected my safety hat. Over here, it's the mesh collider that I added, right? So I selected this Add Component button and searched for the mesh collider. And also, I'm going to make it convex. So when I do that, let me open up my gizmos again. And there you go. You can see that the helmet itself. Let me disable this light proofs. Let me disable this. Don't worry about it. But if you select this, you can see how it has created some sort of a collision box around this helmet. Right. So I'm going to do the same thing for the safety glass as well. So let me select this safety glass over here. Let me get rid of the gizmos for a moment. Select the safety glass, the safety goggles. I'm going to add two components. The first one is the mesh collider. I'm going to select Add Component and search for mesh collider. And I'm going to enable convex. Right, so that way you will see the convex property of this. And I'm going to add another component, which is the grab interactable. Like before, grab interactable. So likewise, I'm going to do the same thing for my chainsaw as well. Right, so I'm going to select the chainsaw, which is basically it's a jigsaw, not actually a chainsaw. Click Add Component. The first one is the mesh collider. And I'm going to enable convex. And if I click this button right here, you can see the bounding box of this. And now I'm going to add the grab interactable. Xr grab interactable. Cool. All right, so now let's go to the play mode and see how this works. Okay, so basically what I did was I selected all of these three game objects, all of these three models, added a collider component, and added the grab interactable component, right? And plus, apart from that, I added a box collider, only a collider component to my bench top. Otherwise, all of this would fall down because of the gravity simulation, right? Okay, so I'm going to save my scene. Save. I'm going to go to the play mode, and let's see how this works. Just for now, I'm going to drag this game mode right over here, so that way you can see both these viewports. Right. So this is me right here. This is what I see, and this is what a third person would see. Okay, so I'm going to go to the play mode, and here are my hands. I'm a little bit away from here. Let me quickly stop this and move myself a bit closer to this. Move it over here. I'm going to click play. Cool. So there you go. So I have my hands, and I can see my helmet, my jigsaw, and my safety goggles. So I'm using my grab key right here. I'm not sure this is visible. This is the grab key, and this is the trigger key. So we are using grab key for all of this because we are grabbing things. I'm going to put my hand into the helmet and press the grab key, and this is it. There you go. Right? And I can release the grab key, and now it drops down. I can select this. Okay, so there seems to be a problem with this. Seems to be a little bit of a problem with this. Let me see what that is. So I can grab this. That's fine. I can grab the jigsaw, which is fine. There is a small problem with the with this. It's not grabbable. Let's see what that is. Okay, when I add a rigid body and a collider to a game object, gravity disabled. Resting on another game object 2, the object 1 floats away from its position. Yes, so that can happen. Floating away can happen because you disabled gravity. When you disable gravity, that does not mean it's not a physical object, right? When you disable gravity, that means it can float around in space. Because when two of these objects combined, right? When you combine two of these objects, what happens is basically when two of these objects collide, they will have some sort of a physical interaction in between, and because of that, and because you don't have gravity, they'll just float away, right? So make sure that you've enabled gravity. Do not disable gravity, just keep it enabled. If you want to keep it as a solid, then there is something that we need to do. I'll show you what I'm going to do. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to select this stud right here. You can see this stud guy. I'm going to right-click this stud. You can see that the stud is right underneath the workbench. And I'm going to create a duplicate of this. And I'm going to move it over here. Right, using my move tool, I'm going to move it over here. So now it's like two studs closer together. Right? So to this stud, I'm not going to attach any grab objects or anything, but I'm going to add a box collider, just like before, a box collider. And I can see that the collider has some sort of a collision boundary. Plus, I'm going to attach a rigid body. Rigid. Let me search for rigid body. Rigid body. So here, instead of disabling gravity, I'm going to enable something called is kinematic. Right? So I'm going to enable this. First of all, I need to make sure that this object is not static. So there is an option right over here, which is called static. Right? You tick it and you click it again to untick this, because the reason that I could not pick it up is because it was set as static. So static, making an object static means it cannot be moved, right? If you enable static, it will not be moved. Even with physical interactions, it will be there, right? So make sure that the copy of your stud is not static. Just select it, and in the inspector window, you can see something called static right here. Plus, I'm going to select my safety goggles as well. And here, I'm going to disable the static feature of this as well. Not static. Right. So why did I do this, and why did I add something called kinematic over here? So let me play this and show you what happens. So my idea is that the plan, what I'm going to do is, when I pick this jigsaw up, and when I put it right over here, it will detect that collision and it will drop this thing here, right? It's a very small simulation, right? Not an actual simulation, just a representation of it. Let me click play without putting my headset on. What I'm going to do is, if the jigsaw collided with the stud, I'm going to manipulate some components of the stud. So right now you can see even if the grabbable, or sorry, even if the rigid body is attached to this, you can see here that the rigid body is attached to this, but it doesn't fall down. What I'm going to do is, now I'm in the play mode. I'm playing now. I'm going to disable this kinematic and see what happens. Okay, 3, 2, 1, go. There you go. Now it dropped down on the floor, right? So that means when you enable kinematic, it is going to be a solid object in the space, right? Cool. So now let's quickly finish off the component. So what I'm going to do here is that, first of all, I need to grab and wear the helmet. I need to grab and wear the safety goggles, and then I need to pick the jigsaw and cut it, right? So in order to do this, I'm going to create a let me just take it over here. So inside of Xr, inside the Xr origin, the camera offset, inside the main camera, I'm going to create, I'm going to go and select right Xr. And here there is something called Socket Interactor. Right? So right click the main camera inside the Xr origin, camera offset, main camera. I'm going to right click this and create a Socket Interactor. So let me go to Xr and choose Socket Interactor. Right? So when you do that, you can see that it has created something called a sphere collider. And when I select this edit collider, you can see that it has created like a boundary, only a bounding box, nothing else but just a bounding box. Right? Look what happens when I click play. Just look at this and see what happens with the Socket Interactor, right? So this is a Socket Interactor, nothing else but a Socket Interactor. So I'm going to click play, and now you can see that because this is a part of my head, right? You can see when I move my head, it just goes around, it just moves around. What I'm going to do is I'm going to use my hand, and I'm going to grab it. And I'm going to, look at this. I'm going to just hover it over my head and release my grab key. Boop, and there you go. Now I wore the helmet, right? I can grab it again and I can drop it. I can get this guy right here and wear this as well. Now I'm wearing the sunglasses, and I cannot wear the helmet anymore because I'm wearing these goggles. All right, I can lift it off, I can place it somewhere else, and I can wear the helmet. There you go. I'm wearing the helmet. Okay, so this is really cool, right? So what I can do is you can create another Socket Interactor for the one for the helmet, and I'm going to duplicate this. And this one is going to be for the goggles. So what I can do is you can use the move tool and move this up a little bit, because the head is going to be over here, a little bit up. But the goggles are going to be on my head itself. So if I enable gizmos and select both of these, you can see here that the you can see the two interactors over here and here. So this is what is meant by the Socket Interactor, right? The Socket Interactor works the same way that the hands work, but basically what happens here is that the grabbable or the interactables, when they collide with the Socket Interactor or any interactors, some of these actions are going to be executed. For the Socket Interactor, it's all about grabbing the object and placing it in its position. Right, so that is what is meant by Socket Interactor. So you can use the Socket Interactors in, like, let's say that you want to, you want to place a key right next to a door, and you want the door to be open. So to do that, you can use the Socket Interactor. And something like this, you can use the Socket Interactor. What I'm also going to do is I'm going to add a Socket Interactor over here, so that my jigsaw collides with this. And then, of course, I can, rather than just this jigsaw being attached to this, I can enable a I can enable an interaction to make this stud go down, right? So let's see how we can do that. So I'm going to select this stud, right? This stud right here. I'm going to right-click this, and just like before, I'm going to go to Xr and go to where is it? In socket interactor, and you can see that the socket interactor, the position is over here. So if I want to move this, I can just move it all the way here. So now I have a socket interactor here as well. So what I'm going to do is, over here in the inspector window, there is an option called Interactor Events. Interactor Events. So when you enable this, you can see there is something called hover entered, and hover exited. So these things are known as Unity events, right? So we are talking about Unity events in our courses. Like we are creating our own Unity events. So this actually allows a non-programmer to wire up basic functions, just basic functions, just basic manipulations without using any coding. So now this is an interactable and this is an interactor. We can do the filtrations later on, but today I'm not going to focus mainly on the filtrations. If this collides with this, what I want to do is I want the stud, this kinematic feature, to be disabled, right? Okay. So what I'm going to do is, so this thing should happen when I hover. Hover means I take my grabbable and kind of place it right next to the interactor. Then both of these are going to be executed. So this hover will also be invoked. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to click the plus button right here. So make sure that you selected the socket interactor over here. When I add a rigid body and a collider to a game object, gravity disabled, resting on another game object 2, the game object 1 floats away from its position. Yeah, that is because the collisions, the collider boxes should be away from each other. Even if the object is resting on top, right? If your collision boxes are inside of each other, then when you click play, they're going to be pushed away, and they're going to move away from each other. So that's why they float away from each other. So make sure click this button right here and select the object and see whether you can see the gizmos. So these are known as gizmos. You can click this, or here you can see, like in 2020, you can see something called gizmos. Click it, and you will see the boundary boxes. Make sure these boundary boxes are not colliding with each other before going to the play mode. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to click the plus button over here, hover entered. I'm going to drag and drop this second stud onto this none object. What I'm going to do is over here, I'm going to go to the rigid body, and the feature that this drops down is the kinematic feature, right? So I'm going to select bool is kinematic, and the kinematic feature of this should be gone. Plus, this this socket interactor also should be disabled because I don't want this to be activated anymore, right? So I'm going to click the plus button right here again, drag and drop the socket interactor, and from here I'm going to choose game object and disable. So basically what I've done here is that I accessed the components of other game objects and I changed some properties over here, right? So this will be executed when this gets hovered over, right? So basically what we did was we created some, we created a flow. Now, for example, I can do this. If the hat collides with my socket interactor right here, I can activate a tick box right here. Now, for example, let me go to the panel. I'm going to go to UI and create an image. So let's just assume that this is a tick box, right? So I'm going to place it right here. and by default the tick box is disabled, right? So I'm going to rename this as tick 1. So I'm going to disable it. And if I scroll all the way up to the socket interactor helmet, you can select this. And over here, you can see the interactive events. So now in this case, this should not be, hover. This should be select. That means when you put your helmet, to your socket, it's going to execute this select enter. The interactor has selected the game object. So here, what I'm going to do is I'm going to click the plus button right here, drag and drop this stick 1 image, and I'm going to activate this. Select set active and true. I'm not going to go through all of this because of the time. What is your opinion of using Python for Unity? I'm learning Python, then subsequently learning C#. Python is not directly supported by Unity. Unity uses C#, native C# libraries in order to work with like system components, system interactions, and it uses like the IL2 CPP and some mono, some what is it called? Interpreters, not interpreters, compilers to compile. C++, Unity uses C++ in the background. Background in the sense like the very bottom layer, but Unity has not provided a C++ front end to work with or a C++ API to work with. Okay, so I'm going to show this to you once, and I'm gonna get back to Ro, so he'll continue, and then I can move into the questions. So there you go. So we use the basic components that are provided by the Xr Interaction Toolkit without doing any coding. So if you want to customize this, basically if you wear the helmet on your eyewear area, this is going to be executed anyway. If you want to do these filtrations, of course, you have to do a little bit of coding, which of course, basically with the time, we have to go through the simplest approach. So let me just click play and show you how this works, and then we can go to the Q&As. All right, so I'm going to click play. Okay, it says it's there you go. All right, so now you can see that where the helmet, it's there. There's nothing. The tick box is not there. So I'm going to grab my helmet and I'm going to wear it. And now you can see that it's activated. And also I'm going to get my goggles. I'm going to wear that as well. I'm going to grab this and I'm going to cut it. I think the place is over here. Oh, there you go. Now we drop down. So basically we use the interactors and interactables to perform a very simple interaction. I'm going to drop my helmet and my work is done here. So thank you very much. I'll be moving back to the Q&As, but before that, I'm going to switch the session back to Ro. You can continue with the rest of the session. Thank you.
Alrighty, thank you very much, Indica. That was a great presentation. I'm sure the audience has learned a lot today. I can see that we've had some questions come through throughout the workshop, and I want to make sure that we have time to address them in the Q&A section of the workshop. So please, if you have any further questions, go ahead and post them in the questions tab, because I am going to be taking a few minutes here before we re-invite Indica back up. I'm going to let him get a glass of water and some rest before we re-invite him back up. Also, as a reminder, this session is being recorded and everyone will have access to the recording and the project files shown today. And finally, if everyone could navigate over to the polls tab, I've just dropped one in. On a scale of 1 to 10, how likely are you to recommend this workshop to a friend? Please do answer this poll, as it really helps us improve our content and create more awesome workshops for you guys. I also wanted to run through a bit of our course options and information. If you've enjoyed today's workshop, would love to have you continue your learning journey with us. My favorite part of hosting these workshops is to show off some of the amazing work that our students have created over the years, whether it's creating a unique Unity scene, building interactive AR experiences with Vuforia, or scripting mind-blowing experiences using the C# coding language. Ultimately, we love to help our students along their learning path and help them achieve amazing things. On screen, you'll see just a few examples of our students who have gone on to carve out a career in XR after learning with Circuit Stream. Also, I would like to introduce our brand new self-paced course for app development. This is a 6-hour course that allows you to move at your own pace and will provide an in-depth guide on how to build your first application for your portfolio. We also have our C# scripting fundamentals course, which is a 4-week program focusing on only C# coding language for those folks interested in diving a little bit deeper into the language. Now, we also have our beginner friendly 10-week project based program that is also live online and instructor led. You will focus on making AR and VR applications in Unity with 3 hours of instruction per week, lifetime access to both the class recordings as well as the 5 office hours per week that we offer. And also with the plus package of this program, you will have 10 hours of one-on-one time with our experts, which can be used for both personal projects or the course material. As you can see, we have a cohort coming up on May 17th. This is the cohort that's run by Circuit Stream. This course is also available through any of our university partners. As you can see, the University of British Columbia is having a cohort on May 17th. Similarly with University of Toronto, University of San Diego, as well as UC Riverside, they all have cohorts that start on May 17th as well. Next up, we have our interaction design and prototyping for XR program. This is also a beginner-friendly 10-week instructor-led program with the main focus being on designing experiences for AR and VR versus web and mobile applications. Much like the XR development program, you'll have 3 hours of instruction per week, lifetime access to both the class recordings as well as the 5 office hours per week with the option for the 10 hours of one-on-one time with our experts through the plus package. Our cohort for this program starts on July 13th, and similarly, this course is also available through our university partners with their cohorts also starting on July 13th as well. Um, Lastly, we have our amazing Unity Developer Bootcamp, which will prepare you for a 3D development career, helps you build a portfolio of 10 plus projects, and our one-on-one career services help ensure you make the right connections in the industry and helps you make the best first impression on potential employers. I would like to mention that the bootcamp is only available through Circuit Stream directly. The first cohort just started, and the next one is scheduled for October 2022. We have yet to determine the exact date, so stay tuned for that. Now, beyond the lessons themselves, we've also created a robust community of XR learners. All of our students and alumni get lifetime access to all of the material and recordings from class, in addition to lifetime access to all of the perks associated with our community. Our student experience coordinator, Lucy and Arki, they run all kinds of awesome events, and they're dedicated to supporting our students and alumni. They facilitate extra office hours, support groups, demo days, and so much more. And with most of our programs, there is no experience required. These are for the 10-week programs. The boot camp does have an aptitude test that needs to be passed before enrollment is allowed. But for our 10-week programs, no experience is required, so beginners have no fear. I'm sure many of you were wondering about tuition prices for our courses, so I'm going to take a few minutes to discuss the finances involved. We offer two different packages, as I mentioned, for both our XR development and our XR design courses. and our new self-paced course that is sold individually. The starter pack includes the course of your choice, while the plus package includes an additional 4-week C# scripting fundamentals short course, as well as 10 additional hours of private one-on-one time with your instructors for extra learning or personal project support. Now, the prices that you see on screen are in USD and they represent our regular tuition. A quick word on the university tuition: the starter and the plus packs are sold for the same price as what you see on screen now. Our Canadian university partners process their tuition in Canadian dollars, but to access that pricing, you must live in the province where the partner is located. And our bootcamp has a tuition of 14,995 dollars USD. However, we were offering the large launch scholarship for our uh, first cohort of the boot camp. We do have some financing options for all of our courses on the topic of finances. We do offer payment plans of 3, 6, and 12-month payment plans for international students and for our American students. We do external loans of up to 5 years through our financing partner, Climb. There is an application there. So if you have any questions on screen, you'll see our admissions team: Tyler, Leanne, myself, Shoshana, Stella, Brendan, and Marvell. If you have any questions, please don't hesitate to reach out to us. We're a bit different than other companies in that we're extremely involved in the before, during, and after part of your registration process. We're here to help answer any questions you might have about the financials, your learning or career goals, anything about Unity, VR, AR devices, and so on. You can again reach out to us directly through our website or through a call or email if you've already connected with one of us previously. Now, feel free to head over to the learning page on our website or any of our affiliated partner websites to learn more about each of the courses, to download a syllabus, or to submit an application to enroll so that a member of our admissions team knows to reach out. Amazing. So that will wrap up the presentation for today. At this point, I'd like to invite Indica back on the stage so we can get started with your questions. Indica, are you still there?
Yep, I'm here.
Perfect. All right. So I do see that we have lots of questions here. So without further ado, I am going to start these. Uh, let's see here. So, do you have any upcoming boot camps for XR design? In terms of the boot camp, Liz, XR Design, that's a separate program than the boot camp. We do have cohorts that run on a regular basis throughout the year for the interaction design and prototyping for XR program. On the screen you saw the start dates for them, but we do run them on a regular basis. Again, the boot camp is a separate program. That program is 24 weeks long, and the next upcoming cohort for the boot camp is scheduled for October 2022. I hope that answers the question. Um, Next, we have, let's see, we have Keith, which we had that question answered. Let's see. You've been busy, Inika. You've been answering all the questions on there. Let's see.
I guess I can answer the question by Keith. Like, are there any third-party tools to speed up workflows for people that know how to code? So in our XR development course, basically what we do is, everything that we do is through coding. It's not about prototyping. It's about building things from coding from scratch. We moved to XR Interaction Toolkit from the scratch approach because XR Interaction Toolkit kind of gives you the core interactions, so they can focus on the rest of the interactions using C# scripting. So some of these examples, like if you want to create an interaction to open a door, open a drawer, maybe shoot a gun, so stuff like that, we obviously need to create our custom interactions using coding. So just like we added new components in Unity, basically what we do is we create our own components that manipulates there's other that manipulates values of other components, and we go through the concepts of inheritance, encapsulation, some basic object oriented programming concepts, plus some of the design patterns, like how to use a design pattern known as singleton in order to make your workflow much better. So coding wise, it's going to be similar to what, if you have experience in coding, it's going to be similar to that. Like it's going to be similar to Java. It's all about, the syntax is a little bit different because how Unity executes codes is a little bit different than traditional C sharp. But in order to improve the workflows, Unity has already given us the flexibility of using Microsoft Visual Studio. So when you install Unity, it will automatically install Microsoft Visual Studio for you. So whenever you want to create a custom component, it will immediately open up the IDE. And even it works with GitHub Copilot as well. So that means you can use GitHub Copilot to make things, to build things quickly and prototype things quickly.
Perfect. And then we have another question from Carlisa. We need a VR system to complete this. Any recommendations for headsets?
So we would recommend Oculus Quest 2 because that is the most recent and the most advanced and also the cheapest VR headset available as far as I know in the market. So there are things like Pico, Oculus Rift. So if you are hoping to use a tethered VR headset, unfortunately it requires another PC, which is a VR capable PC. So it's kind of like an additional charge, additional expense. So the best available and the cheapest is the Oculus Quest.
Perfect. And then we have another question. I will mention this live as well. Where do we access the recording? Again, the recording will be sent to everyone who registered for the workshop. It will be sent to you via email. So right after we're done the workshop, we will be sending those out. And then I believe that that concludes the questions. You did answer what is your hardware setup while you were doing the workshop. So I will give a few minutes if anyone has any questions. This is your chance. Speak now or forever hold your peace. But we'll see here. If not, I think that was it. So thank you very much, everyone, for joining us today. Thank you, Indica, for hosting today. It was an amazing workshop. We love hosting these for you guys. So again, thanks again. Oh, I think, let's see here. Oh, there we go. Keith with the last minute question. This is an interesting one. So, why Unity over Unreal?
So it's to be honest, it's a question not to debate, but you can use both engines. Both of the engines are very powerful. Unity somehow is very flexible when it comes to standalone mobile platforms compared with Unreal. Unity has given us, like, if you want to just build it and just put it on your Oculus Quest and deploy, the the flexibility is much more higher than Unreal Engine. So I know that Unreal Engine uses its own, the user interface is complex. Unity, basically learning Unity, the learning curve of Unity is much easier compared with Unreal. So that is why we start off with Unity Engine. And of course, if you want to go through, the advanced concepts, building like hyper realistic simulations, of course you can use Unreal, but it comes with traits. Now we are using Oculus Quest. We can build applications that runs on computers, plus we can build that applications that runs on standalone VR headsets. Your standalone VR headset, the Oculus Quest, is an Android device. It uses limited capabilities. It has limited set of RAM and stuff like that. So Unreal Engine, of course, it is available for mobile as well, but Unity has the highest compatibility when it comes to mobile platforms. So that's why we use this. Plus, Unity has its own custom components, like the Xr Interaction Toolkit. So rather than building things from scratch, Unity has given us the freedom to use the components that they have already to quickly prototype things that we require.
Perfect. And then we had another one come in here. Can you add a 360 video as a background or as a cutaway when user clicks on something?
Of course, we can do. In fact, we have a workshop that we did called 360 VR tour. I think if you go to our Circuit Stream website and search for 360 virtual tours, you can get a pre-recorded workshop, um, on demand. If not, just send us a message on the community and we'll share that with you.
Awesome. And then a couple of people have posted some questions in the chat section. What are your hopes for VR's potential? This is always an interesting topic to talk about.
Yeah, my expertise on, like, even when I'm in my university, my final year project was similar to this. It's all about preventive maintenance and simulations, but it was not on VR, it was on AR. So basically VR AR both goes together, but the VR's potential, I believe, is more on industrial applications, mainly simulations and visualization. So of course, like metaverse and all of these, social things are going to be there anyway, right? And but what is beneficial in terms of industrial, I believe it's going to be simulations, completely simulations. Even now there are, like, I've seen projects that are running. People are doing VR simulations. So there is this one project that I contributed here in the country that I'm working. So basically, they are just creating a tunnel, and they want to, like, inside the tunnel they have this safety pod, and in order to give the real feeling of the safety pod and what sort of buds that you need to use, rather than just placing a pod somewhere else, they just give you the Oculus Quest headset. So you just put it in, and you're inside the pod, and basically you just need to work through the buttons, do the simulation, and if you pass the simulation, then only you can go into the tunnel, not the tunnel, I guess, something that you dig out, something like that. So it's really so there are, like, countless of possibilities that we can do with VR.
Nice. Yeah, definitely. I mean, I completely agree. And Jacob, who asked the question, agrees as well. I think the education side and the training side of VR is something that's the most exciting for me as well. And then lastly, we have a question from Charles. Can Unreal Engine be used on Oculus?
Of course, in fact, there are, like, a lot of applications that are built using Unreal Engine, and like, as I said before, both the engines are really powerful for for, like, even for mobile applications. We use Unity because that's the easiest to get into VR development compared with Unreal Engine. So of course, you can use Unreal Engine to build your application, and even deploy it on an Oculus Quest. So there are, like, a couple of applications that I've seen, like, Pistol Whip, and there's another application called Dance Central. So Dance Central has been built using Unreal Engine. So yeah.
All right. I think this time that was it. Unless I see a couple of people typing, so let's see here. Oh, Dance Central is incredible. Perfect. And all right, I believe that's it. Again, thank you everyone for joining. Thank you, Indica, for taking the time and explaining everything so clearly. It's a pleasure to host these workshops, and we're excited to do more. Keep an eye out for more workshops like this, and we'll see you next time. Thanks, everyone. Have a great day.